Sabrina choked. She thinks I stole something from her. Just then, Baba Yaga appeared in one of her windows. She has been touched, she screamed, pointing directly at Sabrina. You're mucho crazio, Daphne cried as she struggled to hold Elvis back from attacking the witch. What you mean? My sister didn't steal anything from you. Leave her alone or things are going to get ugly. The little girl stepped into her attack stance and made her warrior face, a slightly comical expression she believed people found intimidating. Luckily, Granny Rhoda was nearby to grab Daphne and Elvis and pull them into the house. Give me my possession or I'll destroy this house and everyone in it, Baba Yaga screamed. We have no idea what you are talking about, Granny insisted. The wand of Merlin, the witch said. Your nestling has stolen it. I didn't take anything from her, Sabrina cried. I wouldn't come near her stinking house for $1,000,000. Liar, thief, Baba Yaga shrieked. I believe Sabrina, Granny cried. She has not been out to your home. Someone else must have taken it. If you want our help getting your wand back, all you have to do is ask. But you are not to come here and threaten my family. I don't care who you are. Baba Yaga disappeared from her window. A moment later, the front door of her house flew open and she scurried into the groom's yard, pointing her gnarled, wood-covered finger at Sabrina. I have never lied to you, old mother, Granny interrupted. Baba Yaga stopped in her tracks. She eyed Granny Rhoda skeptically, then looked over at Mr. Candace. You will find the one, Granny nodded. We'll come out to see you in the morning and then we'll get to the bottom of this. Fine. The witch turned and hobbled back into her house. A moment later, it rose up on its haunches, turned and lumbered back across the street. It disappeared into the woods, leaving a trail of black chimney smoke in its wake. Moments later, Puck streaked back into the yard and landed with his sword clenched tightly in his hand. Where did she go? She's gone, Sabrina said. Coward, of course she ran off, Puck growled. She attacked me when I wasn't ready and then ran back to the woods. Miserable sissy. Well, you can settle your dispute with her tomorrow. We're going for a visit, Granny said. Sabrina turned to her grandmother. If you think I'm going to that lunatic's house, you're as crazy as she is. This is crazy, Sabrina shouted as she squished through the mud with her grandmother, Daphne, and Puck. A fresh rain had soaked the woods, turning the forest floor into a swamp. Puck followed Sabrina with his sword in his hand. He muttered to himself about what he planned to do to Baba Yaga when he confronted her, while occasionally remembering to insult Sabrina. I hear she eats people, Grim, he said. I bet she turns you all into jerky. I don't want to be jerky, Daphne cried. No one is going to get turned into jerky, Granny said. This is going to be nice and pleasant. That's what people always say before they become jerky, Puck said. Don't worry, folks. I've got a score to settle with the witch. She'll regret the day she laid her hand on the trickster king. Puck's boasting made Sabrina nervous. Baba Yaga had a 2,000-year-old reputation for black magic and an even blacker mood. The family journals were filled with rumors of her cannibalism and murders. The last time Sabrina visited her creepy house, Sabrina had to hop for her life when Baba Yaga turned her into a frog and tried to eat her. The last thing they needed was for Puck to start a fight with the old crone. They walked until they came upon a part of the forest where the thin, dead trees were close together, their limbs intertwined, as if they were holding one another at the moment of their deaths. Though there was nothing to block the sunshine, the area was dark and gray. Now a blade of grass sprang from the ground. Sabrina realized that the natural sounds of the forest were also gone. The scurrying of animals, the wind in the branches, the crackling of earth beneath their feet, all silenced. They continued on and soon found themselves on a path of bleached stones. Sabrina had followed it once before and knew where it led, straight to the man-eating witch. She also knew that the stones of the path were not what they seemed. It wasn't long before Puck noticed they were peculiar as well. "These are human skulls!" he cried, digging one out of the ground and holding it up to the group. "Don't be frightened, Puck," Granny said. "Frightened? This is the coolest thing I've ever seen," the boy said. He moved the skull's jaw up and down like a spooky puppet and stuck it next to Daphne's face. "Hey, little girl, how about a smooch?" Daphne shrieked and hid behind her sister. Granny Rhoda scolded Puck and demanded he return the skull to the path. "What happened to your claims of revenge, Trickster King?" Sabrina asked the fairy. "All of a sudden, Baba Yaga is like a movie star to you. Just because I'm going to unleash hellfire on her doesn't mean I can't appreciate her style," Puck said. "Granny, what happened to her bodyguards?" Daphne asked as she peered ahead. The notorious Deadly, Bright Sun, Black Knight, and Red Star, each a bizarre hybrid of an animal and a man. Usually guarded the old witch, but there were no in sight. "Don't worry about them," Puck said. "They won't be showing their ugly faces around here. They know better than to cross paths with me." The boy's voice cracked at the end of the sentence. Puck looked around as if someone else had made the noise. He said the word "me" again with the same result. "Sounds like you might be coming down with a cold," Granny said. "Ever afters do not get colds," Puck argued. "Nonetheless, I think I'll make you some chicken soup when we get home." The group continued down the path and soon Baba Yaga's hut came into view. A fence made from ancient human leg and arm bones surrounded it. Granny Rhoda pushed open the fence and let the family into the yard. Sabrina eyed her grandmother with awe and envy. The old woman was fearless. She strode to the front door as if she were visiting an old friend. Sabrina wondered if she could ever feel that courageous. Granny knocked and a moment later the door flew open. "The young and the restless is on," Baba Yaga seethed. She was holding a bowl of cereal in her hand and eating it with a spoon. Granny shuffled her feet. "I'm sorry. We thought you'd want us to get started as soon as possible." The witch frowned but waved everyone into the house. The inside was as disturbing as the outside. In a corner, dusty burlap bags leaked green ooze onto the floor. Along the wall stood stacks of crates, one of which seemed to have something inside it struggling to break free. The brick fireplace was lit, and the flames formed the desperate faces of people who seemed to be begging for help. Sabrina shuddered to imagine herself trapped with those poor souls, suffering for eternity in Baba Yaga's home. Still, the most unsettling feeling wasn't the filth and despair that seemed to permeate the air. It was the odd sensation running up and down Sabrina's spine. At first she thought it was just nerves, but she soon realized that what she felt was more like hunger, a nervous, unnatural craving. Every drop of blood, bit of muscle, fiber, and strand of hair in her being was awake and starving. She glanced around the wands, spellbooks, and magical rings the witch left flying about. Baba Yaga didn't deserve these things. Look how she mistreated them. "Are you going to be okay?" Daphne asked. She squeezed Sabrina's arm. Sabrina took a deep breath and nodded. "Let's get out of here as soon as we can." Where are your guardians, old mother?" Granny Rhoda asked the witch. "They failed me," the witch snapped. "That's not why I asked." The witch screamed in rage. "Don't question me. I created them for a purpose. They were to guard my possessions. They failed. You need to know more." Sabrina could easily read between the lines. Baba Yaga's guardians were dead. Their bones were probably part of the fence outside. Puck, on the other hand, was completely oblivious to the conversation. He was busy snooping around the room, opening cabinets and peeking into drawers as if he owned the place. "This book looks like it's made out of a human skin," he exclaimed when he picked up a discarded tome off the floor. The cover looked like leather but had hair growing out of it. It is, Baba Yaga cackled. Puck looked like he wanted to hug the old hag. This place is like my Disneyland. Hello, Sabrina said. What happened to the hellfire? Puck scowled and put the book back on the floor. Old mother, tell us what you know about your missing wand, Granny said as she took out her notebook and pen. It was here one minute, it was here one moment and gone the next, the witch said, flashing Sabrina an accusing look. Can you show us where you kept it? Granny said. The crone hobbled into the next room. The floor was covered in dust and what looked like human teeth. There was an overstuffed reclining chair in the center of the room, across from a television on a rickety stand against the wall. The jawbone of a ferocious-looking animal rested on top of the TV with an old wire hanger wrapped in tin foil sticking out of it, making a very disturbing antenna. I kept the one in here, the witch said as she gestured around the room. Okay, girls, here's where we get to put your training into action, Granny Rhoda said. Have a look around and remember, keep an eye out for things that are out of place. In the last 2 months, Granny Rhoda had been teaching Sabrina and Daphne to see, or rather to observe, things. She believed good detectives had to use all of their senses to get a true picture of a crime scene. Her method included sniffing for odd scents, listening for unusual sounds, and peeking into dark corners. Sabrina had her own method, though. She believed the best way to find a criminal was to think like one. All she had to do was to think about what she might have done if she were trying to get away with something. When she combined her approach with her grandmother's, she discovered that she could spot things that others missed. She scanned the room, wondering what her grandmother might mean by out of place. Ancient wallpaper was peeling from the walls. Nothing odd here, nothing odd there. The old woman wasn't exactly Martha Stewart. The floor had an enormous stain Sabrina hoped wasn't blood. In the far corner was a table covered in vials and little glass jars filled with greenish liquid. All manner of disgusting objects floated inside them. Sabrina, Daphne said. What do you see? Sabrina studied the table but saw nothing unusual. If you consider a pile of dead chameleons normal, still Granny had taught her to be thorough, so she took a peek under the table. There she spotted a small hole in the baseboard. Daphne joined her and pointed out that there were little greasy paw tracks in the dust around the hole. The witch had mice. When did you notice the one was missing? Granny asked. Late last night, the witch said. Was anything else taken? No. Do you know who did it yet? We just got here, Granny said. The witch scowled. Tomorrow I will take matters into my own hands, Rhoda grinned. Old mother, please, Granny pleaded. You have to give us some time. You heard me. Tomorrow. Chapter 3. When the family returned home, Granny sent the children to wash up while she prepared one of her signature dishes, corn flakes and avocado sauce. The old woman was under the impression that the odd recipes she had collected on her adventures around the world were enjoyed by her whole family, but the old woman was very, very wrong. Sabrina couldn't stand her grandmother's cooking. Day after day, she had suffered through tulip root soup, Chinese beetle bread, crocodile steaks, creamed bacon with butterscotch nuggets, horseradish-flavored oatmeal, and Limburger pancakes. She might have been able to change the menu if she wasn't surrounded by people who would eat anything. Daphne scoffed down whatever was put in front of her, even dishes that Elvis would turn up his huge snout at. That seems to be the end of this video. I'll send them later. Goodbye.